ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله وامين ورحيم. يا ايها الذين امنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن الا وانتم مسلمون. يا ايها الذين امنوا اتقوا الله وتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله ان الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear Muslim brothers and sisters in Islam, our praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِّعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. And we are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all our needs. يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ أَنتُمُ الْفُقَرَاءُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ هُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ. One of the key factors that will help us maintain our iman and strengthening is that feeling that Allah has given us so much and you are trying to express that. You should feel it and you should try to express that gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise your iman will weaken without that strong feeling of indebtedness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises an-nafs al-lawwama. An-nafs al-lawwama is the one who always reconsider, always think about what you're doing, whether you're right or wrong, and then when you make a mistake, you blame yourself and you try to fix it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة. And so if you don't have that, you should try to acquire it. Because the opposite, the alternative to this is complacency, is to be always satisfied with who you are and what you're doing. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cautioned us against complacency when He says, وَلَا تَزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Never feel that what you're doing is enough, or what you know is enough, or your character is good enough, or anything is good enough. Life is a strive for perfection. Life for a believer should be on a path of continuous improvement. And you should always review and check both yourself and what you're doing. You should always review and check. حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا. Hold yourself accountable before you're going to be held accountable. And ideally, you do this daily. Like when you go to sleep, you try to do this exercise daily about what went right and what went wrong during this day. And the verse we just recited, الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد. Be mindful of Allah and let every soul check what you have prepared for tomorrow. So checking what you have prepared for tomorrow, checking what you have done today, checking where you stand is extremely good exercise and needed, badly needed for a believer. So again, life should be strived for perfection. We all have some strengths and weaknesses. We all have some strengths and weaknesses. And you fool yourself if you think you are perfect or that you don't have any weakness. That's not true. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and we should be aware of them. If you want to succeed in this life and anything after, is you need to be aware of your strengths and capitalize on them. Keep them and leverage them, and be aware of your weaknesses and try to work on them, fix them. That's the proper attitude of a believer, by the way, and that's the proper attitude of a successful people. Leveraging your strength and working on your weaknesses. If you think about it, one reason why the Muslim world is stagnant in the conditions that we see is this. Individuals are stagnant, so society becomes stagnant. Individuals are satisfied with what they are and what they do, so the society will remain stagnant. Because society at the end of the day consists of individuals. And we know the golden rule for change. If we want to change our conditions and our situation, the rule says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Your conditions will not change until you do. If you are thinking the same way, behaving the same way, doing business the same way, you are going to get the same results. And your situation will never change. So let's keep this in mind, because we all know the rule, but a lot of time we don't apply it. So there is only one way to change. If there is a strong link between you and your conditions. Want your conditions to change, then you have to change. In addition to nafs al-lawama, which is needed, nafs al-lawama means the one who is always questioning and looking for ways to improve and looking to do things in a better way. That's nafs al-lawama. In addition to that, there is only one way for people to change and improve, which is to learn. Without learning, there is no improvement. So you need that nafs al-lawama, which is you are always questioning and reviewing and trying to find ways to do things better and to be a better person. That's on one track. And that should drive you to learning, because that's the only way you can improve. And anybody who thinks that what they know is good enough, they quickly become stagnant. Learning and implementing. So, if you want your situation to change, then you need to do. You need to change. In order for you to change, you have to accept that you have strengths and weaknesses. You have to accept or to believe that life is a journey of continuous improvement and strive for perfection, and that should drive you into the learning and implementing. You learn something new, you implement it. Whatever. You learn something new about your health, you implement it, your health improves. Something that you are not aware of. You learn something new about parenting, you implement it, you become better parent. You learn something new about spousal relationship, you implement it, you're going to have better spousal relationship. And that applies to everything. Applies even to your finances, applies to your career. You learn something new, you implement it, that area will be pushed up, will improve. Those who are not learning, they close that door completely. There is no other way. No learning or no reading, meaning stagnation. And actually, it's even worse than stagnation. Because if you are not moving forward, more than likely you are moving backwards, even if you're not feeling it. Because life is continuously evolving. Whoever is not moving forward, who's not improving, more than likely they are moving backwards. Unfortunately, the majority of people, and especially the majority of Muslims, are not in this habit of learning. And that's why we are stagnant. That's why we quickly develop a comfort zone. And then we stay there, whether we're as individuals or families or communities or societies. We fell in love with stagnation. We are very comfortable with stagnation. It doesn't bother us that years go by and things do not change. That doesn't bother us. And that's very, very unfortunate, because that's not most societies. They are doing exactly the opposite. And you can see it even in this country. You don't go to a place for a while. When you go back to visit it, you will notice something new. These people, they are in love with innovation all the time trying to make things more efficient and improve things. And that's very Islamic behavior and very Islamic attitude. And unfortunately, what Muslims are doing has nothing to do with Islam, which is to justify failure and to be comfortable with stagnation. More than that, this learning process and reading is essential to fulfill your mission. You cannot be a good Muslim without learning. So you cannot succeed without learning, you cannot improve, but also you cannot be a good Muslim without learning. So if you are under the impression that you know your religion enough, you know what you're supposed to know and you're doing what you're supposed to do, you need to revisit that, because that's not true. That's a feeling that you should never have until you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That feeling of complacency, that I'm already there, that feeling that we should resist it again, and we should never have it until we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why learning and reading is essential to fulfill our mission? Because our mission, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed us to be Khalifa on earth. And He assigned us the task to manage it and develop it. Manage it, وَالَّذِي أَنْشَأَكُم مِنَ الْأَرْضِ وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُم فِيهَا. He settled you on earth to develop it, to manage it and to develop it. Now, how can you do that without knowledge? How can you fulfill this mission without knowledge? And that's why, in our history, when Muslims properly understood religion, they excelled in the field of science, physical science and even social sciences. Why? Because the proper understanding of Islam and their mission drove them to try to understand how this world functions. So we had people excelled in physical sciences, and also we had people excelled in social sciences. Actually, he is a Muslim who is considered to be the founder of sociology, and that's a khotbah. How society functions, what makes society thrive and prosper, and what makes the society fail and decline. It was the first book and produced was the khotbah, or the famous book by Ibn Khaldun. And there is no excuse for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may not be pleased with Muslims when they lag behind in sciences or when they lag behind in anything, because we are expected to be a model community, the best community. Ummatan wasata, shuhada ala nas. These are big titles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, and we have to live up to that. We are expected to be a model community and the leading community. Not because of who we are. No, we're not the chosen people, but because of what we do in the service of humanity, and we have done that at certain point in time, but for a long time we stopped doing it. And it is never too late to fix that and to turn things around. Muslims have been doing this for a long time, until unfortunately they fell victims of a wave of version of Islam that calls for freezing the mind and suppress ijtihad and creativity and critical thinking and everything. So we had generations of people who, when they memorize, they're called scholars. Scholars not because they produced anything new, but because they memorized the work of people before them. So that's what we consider scholars nowadays. We have been at the forefront of sciences, again, before this turning point happened, and we are still victims and suffering because of this understanding of Islam that calls for freezing the mind and suppressing creativity and ijtihad. So based on all of this, there are two activities that should become part of your daily schedule if you want to be a good Muslim and if you want to be successful in life, and if you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with you. There are two activities that should become like food and drink. You don't spend the day without eating or drinking. Same thing that you should not spend the day without, or let a day passes without these two activities if you want also to have a balanced life. A lot of people, they're living a life that is totally out of balance. One is reading. We really have to fix this very strange phenomenon that became normal, that Muslims do not read. We start taking it for granted. It became normal. It is not normal. It should never become normal. Now the first verses of Quran that was revealed, they are all about reading and knowledge and pen and teaching. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي علم بالقلم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. So all verses, teaching, knowledge, pen, reading, etc. How come we become people, the statistics are very embarrassing. The statistics on the average, how much Muslims read, on the average, they're very shameful. Compared to all other nations, we're way at the bottom. And that again should, first of all, we should realize that's not normal and has to be fixed, and you start with yourself. Because we can sit down and keep talking about community and Muslim world, etc. Nothing will change until it starts from yourself. Start from yourself, and then be a role model for your children and for people around you. So let us fix this habit and change this habit, and then resume to become people who are reading, people who are learning. So reading should become a daily activity. And also it should become a habit, normal, when we meet, to ask each other, what are you reading these days? Or what's the last thing that you have read? That should become something normal. Or I just finished this book. I really recommend it for you. And if you want, I can give it to you. That should become normal. That should become a tradition in our meeting and in our discussions and gathering. Again, that's if you want to become a better person, if you want to become more successful, if you want to become more effective, and if you want to be a better Muslim. And then the Quran, the other daily activity or the other activity that should be daily, part of your daily schedule, not a Ramadan thing or not occasional. It is the Quran session. To spend some time reading, contemplating, pondering, reflecting on verses of the Quran. Now, how much you can do? Different people have different circumstances. Some people are more busy than others. Some people, they can do more than others. That's Allah knows. But that should become part of your daily schedule. Why? Quran takes care of another part of you, which is the faith and the spirituality. So reading, work on this. And from here, when you implement what you learn, that will make you a better person and more successful. Quran works on your faith and your spirituality. And you need it. Nobody can do without it. Works on your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Works on your taqwa. Makes you more motivated to do good. Quran does all of these things very effectively. Session with the Quran, and you get all those benefits. Increase your motivation to do good. You become much more motivated, and then increase your ability to restrain yourself. Works on your akhlaq. Really sharpen your character. So Quran, these two activities, what they do, Quran provides for you the energy and the direction. Put you on the right track and gives you the energy. The other reading teaches the skills. If you think like the driving skills. So the fuel and the direction comes from the Quran. And then the learning will teach you life skills so that you become a better spouse, a better parent. You do better in your career, your finances will improve, your health will improve. All of this comes through the learning and implementing. And then the Quran fixes the other part, and that's the only way you can establish that balance in our lives. As I said, a lot of people, they live life that is completely out of balance. Why? Because we spend the bulk of our time and resources on only satisfying our physical needs. Not much on spirituality and not much on our intellectual ability. Even though we are meant to strike balance between all three departments or compartments. You can't imagine letting a day pass by without eating or drinking, but you can imagine allowing weeks and months without reading or without Quran. That's not normal. We came to accept it as normal. That's not normal. So when you draw your daily schedule, you should realize that these are not luxury. These are not occasional things. These are, you finish a book, you start another one. And that's the only way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with you, because that's the only way you can improve, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want to see you the same person day in, day out. He wants to see you every day learning something new, implementing it, so that it will make you a better person. I promised last time every time inshallah we'll reflect on some verses of the Quran, and again the purpose is for us to know how to read Quran and leverage it more. We talked about the categories of verses last time. If you remember that one category of verses are talking about Tawheed and Wahdaniyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to strengthen that part. A lot of verses of Quran are there, are about this. And then another category reminding you of the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you more grateful. And another category talking about the characteristics of the good people, so that you can try to be like them, or the characteristics of the bad people, so that you try to avoid that characteristics. That's the major categories of the verses of the Quran, and inshallah today we'll be talking about one subject and theme to show you how Quran can take your iman from very superficial to make it so deep and strong, even though you know it, you accept it, but it doesn't become a deeply seated. That's what Quran does. It takes your beliefs from the being very superficial at the level of tasdeeq, acceptance, it turned into a deeply seated faith that will drive and guide your behavior and your interaction with people. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. Now, dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, every Muslim knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Alim, knows everything. But again, that's very superficial. And then there are verses that will make that much stronger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-An'am says, وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُوَ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا وَلَا حَبَّةٍ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْأَرْضِ وَلَا رَطْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. He has the keys to the unseen. No one knows them but Him. He knows all that is in the land and sea. No leaf falls without His knowledge, nor is there a single grain in the darkness of the earth or anything fresh or withered that is not written in clear record. Just imagine reading, coming to this verse, how the fact that Allah knows everything will move to a different level, from just accepting it into really your heart responding because of that encompassing knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Luqman, verse 14 says, on behalf of Luqman, يَا بُنَيَّ إِنَّهَا إِنْ تَكُنْ مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ مِنْ خَردَلٍ فَتَكُنْ فِي صَخْرَةٍ أَوْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ أَوْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَأْتِي بِهَا اللَّهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَطِيفٌ خَبِيرٌ. My son, even if the weight of mustard seed were hidden in a rock, or anywhere in the heavens or earth, Allah will bring it to light, meaning Allah knows about it. And then the verses goes on to say, in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Qaf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ إذ يتلقى المتلقيان عن اليمين وعن الشمال قعيد ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. We created man. We know what his soul whispers to him. We are closer to him than his jugular vein. نحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد. It's between you and yourself. You're just whispering and thinking, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that is aware of it. And then in Surah Al-Hadid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها وهو معكم أينما كنتم. He knows what enters the earth and what comes out of it, what descends from the sky and what ascends to it. He is with you wherever you are. He sees all that you do. Just imagine the impact of these verses if they are read slowly and with contemplation and reflection, how much they will do to your iman, to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your life. The last verse is from Surah Al-Mujadala. ألم تعلم أن الله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ما يكون من نجوى ثلاثة إلا هو رابعهم ولا خمسة إلا هو سادسهم ولا أدنى من ذلك ولا أكثر إلا هو معهم أينما كانوا ثم ينبئهم بما عملوا يوم القيامة والله بكل شيء عليم. إن الله بكل شيء عليم. Do you not see that Allah knows everything in the heavens and earth? There is no secret conversations between three people where He is not the fourth, nor between five where He is not the sixth, nor between less than three, or more than that without Him being with them, wherever they may be. And on the day of resurrection, He will show them what they have done. Allah truly has full knowledge of everything. You can see, imagine yourself having that daily session with the Quran and coming across these verses, what they're going to do to your belief, what they're going to do to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, as I mentioned before, the more you know that Allah knows everything and He is with you wherever you are, that should do two things. One, to be very careful, because Allah is watching. To be much more careful about what you do and what you say. And two, to be also much more confident, because Allah is with you. You're not going to be scared from anybody. You know that Allah is with you and everything that is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and people can do no harm to you if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not will it. And people cannot benefit you with something that Allah did not prescribe for you. These are, again, the purpose of these verses to show you the importance of having that regular daily session with the Quran, even if it is one verse, even if it is a couple of verses that you read them with reflection and contemplation, and you try to integrate them and incorporate them in your life immediately. The moment you close the Quran, immediately that should find its way into your behavior and into your interaction with you. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا توفنا قرارا عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير الأيام الأوقات متعنا اللهم بالنظر إلى وجهك الكريم. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم.